One. Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 95. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. If you want to get involved in the show, go ahead and tweet us. I'm at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev is at SEA2Believe. That is C2Believe on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Tell us what you think of all the topics we talk about. Gentlemen, let us start with the hottest team in 2023, except for it ended today, unfortunately. But we are talking about the Seattle Kraken. And if you haven't heard by now, they have started off 2023 on quite the run. So they started off the new year at home against the New York Islanders. They won 4-1. Then they went on a 7-game road trip. And guess what? They won all of them. They defeated Edmonton 5-2, Toronto 5-1, Ottawa 8-4, Montreal 4-0, Buffalo 4-3, Boston 3-0, Chicago 8-5 to wrap up the road trip. They played today at home against Tampa Bay, and the win streak finally ended at 8. They lost 4-1 to the Tampa Bay Lightning. But to start 2023, what a hot streak. Sean, have you been paying attention, and what have you thought of the Seattle Kraken so far this year?
I actually have. And actually, when was our last podcast?
It was right before the new year.
So they started the win streak basically right as we have recorded. So, okay. And they knew we were coming back today, so they lost.
Yes.
So it's us.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, it's been it was good. They did not play hard schedule, but they did what you're supposed to do when you not play hard schedule, and they did probably even more because they swept them all. Usually, you hope to get a couple. They did play Toronto and Boston in there, which are both good teams, and looked pretty good against both those teams. It's kind of been the same as the year as before. They've had a couple better goaltending outings during that streak, but largely, again, a lot of goals given up, but just scoring more goals. This all but secures a playoff spot for them now at this point. It just kind of depends on which one they're going to get. Yeah, the streak was fantastic. I am worried once the puck luck and the goalie regression comes, but regardless of when that comes, it's probably going to result at least in a playoff appearance because you win. What did it get? 8 games in a row?
8 in a row.
And 7 on the road, which was a tighter record all time. So that was anytime you win 8 in a row, things could only be so bad. So also I will say, looking at too, Jared McCann really has asserted himself here recently. Got a hat trick. Does he have 2 this year? I thought I saw it. I
think he has 2 this year. You're right.
But has really come on strong recently. So former first rounder really kind of got shifted around a bit, and but yeah, he has really shown up recently. But it's this team is still led by Maddie. So Maddie, who's all but already has the Calder locked up for Rookie of the Year. It is fun to watch this team right now. Anytime you score 5 goals a game, it's always pretty fun. And which game was? Oh, Chicago. They scored 6 goals on 5 shots. 6 on 5 shots, I believe. They were 5 for 5, and then finally missed a shot or something like that. But yeah, missed a goal on a shot or something like that. It was anytime you're 5 for 5 and shots for goals, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, NHL. Yeah, that's it. All good things.
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the Kraken. I mean, Sean, you mentioned the goaltending. I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but Jones was in net for 7 of those 8 victories, and at this point, I think it is his job in net.
Yeah.
And as long as he keeps playing like this, Grubauer is probably not going to see a whole lot of time. Grubauer is nice to have in case Jones has gives up 4 goals in a period and a half, and you want to make a change. Sure, throw Grubauer in there, or if Jones has an injury or something comes up, at least you have Grubauer to go to. He can play at a high level. He hasn't shown it in a Kraken uniform necessarily, but at that same time, there is potential for Grubauer to play well. But Jones has been playing great, and the guy who has really stood out to me is the newly acquired player from, well, on waivers from Nashville. And if I say this wrong, please correct me if you're on Twitter. Eli Tolvanen, the right winger who came in,
claimed off waivers,
has 5 goals, 2 assists in 9 games already. So he has come right into the lineup and played well. So, I mean, great pickup there by Ron Francis, the GM. So, you know, if they keep kind of hitting, so to speak, on all these moves that they have made so far, like Burakovsky is tied for the points lead with rookie Matty Beniers. Jordan Eberle is 1 point behind them. Vince Dunn, the defenseman, has 32, 24 assists, lead the team. Sorry, tied for the lead with Andre Burakovsky. Sean mentioned Jared McCann, 22 goals, 8 assists. So this team is getting a lot of different contributions like we talked about last time. And it just seems to keep on getting better. Like that Chicago game that Sean talked about, every single forward scored a point in the first period. Every forward, because there's 6 goals. It just, when you get offensive production like that, like they did on this road trip, they can beat any team. They beat Boston, who had not lost in regulation at home this season. So for the Seattle Kraken to come in their one road game in Boston, come in, beat a really good Boston Bruins team, that just speaks to how good that road trip was. And obviously they came home and played a very good Tampa Bay Lightning team. So, you know, 8 games and win streak is over. But overall, 2023 has been excellent to the Seattle Kraken. Yeah, Kevin, you are wearing the Kraken hat. Have you been watching some Seattle Kraken hockey?
Well, it looks like I'll let Sean go first.
Okay.
Oh, well, what you said about it's going well. The goaltending is atrocious. It's very bad. 4th worst in the league by a lot of metrics. You said Martin Jones has definitely been their best. He is the tied for 38 best goaltender in the NHL. So he has not been good. It's just when you score 6 goals a game, it looks a lot better. The problem is when the shot luck comes down another 8%, like it's going to, and you're not getting 5 goals a game. That's the Achilles heel. Like once this regression, what we call it the Kyle Lewis regression, happens that all teams go through, the numbers will normalize. And I'm just worried that again the goaltending will rear its head when it matters. But again, like they won 8 in a row.
I will also say they are tied for 2nd in the league for goals per game with the Boston.
Yeah,
Bruins,
no,
so.
like they have to, or they're going to lose every game. So, but like but with that said, they're going to go to the playoffs because of this crazy hot streak. And Martin Jones looked good in flashes, but at the end of the day, it's unfortunately still Martin Jones. He still has a sub 900 save percentage. As a team, again, the teams that the Sharks or that the Kraken are better than are the Kings, Sharks, and Canucks in goaltending. They are worse than everybody else. That includes the Blackhawks, who gave up 5 goals and 5 shots. Like it's just if they can get a little better, maybe, but I'm not just sure that they don't have that. But if that is a big need. It's like saying in the NFL you have every position figured out, but the quarterback. It might not look great at the win-loss record, but again, at least you have only one need. You don't have like 20 needs. You have one need. They really only need to address the goaltending. And if that, like Matthew said, their waiver wire pickups have been nice. They have good young pieces with older pieces. They have good defensemen, good offensive players, veterans, rookies. It's just one piece. And so even this year, I view it kind of like I view the Seahawks this season. This year is finding out who you are, gravy, because the way this team's constructed with weak goaltending, it's probably not going to make a real run at anything. But enjoy this. This is an experience year for a lot of these guys. And then all you have to do is try to hope to figure out one thing, or maybe even trade for a Fleury or somebody in the trade deadline, and that figures it. That solves it. Something like that. But it's nice to only have one issue on the entire team. Because I honestly, looking at the rest of the team, I don't see another issue because this team is just top to bottom. Defense and offense has been fantastic other than one key position. So yeah, it's been really good. Sorry, Kevin.
Oh no, it's all good. Like, I mean, I'm not going to have much to add to it. We already know this. Have I been watching? No. Have I been keeping more and more track of it? Yes. Looking at players and looking at the charts and stuff like that. And it's definitely, and what we have to keep in mind too is at the beginning of the season, nobody predicted this team to make the playoffs. Like nobody. I mean, at this point, no, I don't even think any of us predicted they'd have 56 points. Like I think we're all in the 40s at the end of the season. I think maybe
I thought we were closer to 70s.
No, I was in the 90s.
Yeah,
in the
I thought
90s?
I was in the 70s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Jesus. Anywho, but like what we're seeing right now is a good thing. Now, are we going to make a deep playoff push? Probably not. I mean, we are playing very well right now, but as you know, there's ebbs and flows. Teams get hot, teams get cold. The good news is now that you've seen what we can see out of this team, especially offensively and somewhat defensively, you now can fill those goals in the those holes in the offseason to where next season you have pretty dang good expectations of what this team should be. If you can do what you can offensively, then go get yourself a goalie, and then clean up a little bit on defense, booster a little bit and rotations and stuff like that. This team could really definitely compete for that top spot in the division and make a decent playoff push. Now, these kids are young and there are some vets too, but so it's possible that they could do a deep playoff run. Who knows? The more the merrier. But if they get eliminated in playoffs, am I going to be sad? No, because I know that this team is going to do hopefully better things in the off season, draft well again, and then seriously start competing next year. So everything right now is literally a cherry on top for me, at least. So,
and we talk about farm systems when it comes to the Mariners. Also should take notice of the farm system for the Seattle Kraken. The Coachella Valley Firebirds are the best team in the AHL at the moment. They are 25-6-3, have 54 points, have won are 10-0-1 in their last 11 games. So that is boding well for the future as well. And the Kansas City Mavericks are also hanging in there in the Mountain Division of the ECHL. So also something to keep an eye on is the farm system, because these are players that are probably going to come back, maybe see some time if they are needed. So you've got your Shane Wrights down below. You've got your Alexandra Trues at the Coachella Valley level. So these are guys who are getting significant playing time at the lower level, and hopefully, much like a baseball team, you get that experience, you play really well, you come back up and you keep it going. So we'll see how they develop that farm system as well. But the Kraken have been very, very good to start the season. So I am looking forward. Lauren's brother got me tickets to the April Fool's Day game against the Los Angeles Kings. Sean, I know you're going to be rooting for the Kraken in that one. So we shall see how the Kraken season unfolds. But right now they have one All-Star in Matty Beniers, but obviously this team has a lot of depth, and they could have probably picked Burakovsky or even Jordan Eberle like he was last year. So we'll see how the season shakes out. Go ahead and let us know what your thoughts are on the Seattle Kraken. Go ahead, tweet us. I'm at Matt. Sean said Sean Scabidi. Kevin is at SEA2Believe. That's C2Believe.
But can I transition this? Can I I'll transition to both. How do you both, because this plays into baseball too, how do you both feel about the one All-Star per team rule? Are you for or against it?
I don't really care. I understand the reasoning behind it, but if you really want to select the best players, there are probably some teams who don't deserve one, but overall it doesn't really matter to me.
I'm kind of the same. I don't really matter, but I guess if I had to pick one or the other, I'd be like, just have the best players on it. I don't need to see an Oakland Athletic player playing in the All-Star game. I don't just have the best players. And most years you'll have one guy from each team anyways. But like the Oakland Athletics didn't spend any money this year. They didn't deserve an All-Star, don't fake one.
Like the one year I actually shot a Mariners game on the field, their All-Star was Daniel Vogelbach. So
yeah, the Mariners didn't deserve an All-Star.
Yeah.
Yeah, would I have been upset as a Mariner fan if they didn't get one? No, because you didn't deserve one. So remember what Kikuchi was the next year? It was just Kikuchi. So I was like, I don't know. I'm not strongly about that, but it's with NHL and things like that. I'm like, why do we just force this? Just feel like Matty Beniers should be one either way. But I feel like it takes away from because like you said, Matthew, the Kraken are led by a lot of people, and giving some teams like the Sharks and the Coyotes guy kind of takes away from an Epperly who probably deserves to be in there. And I'm like, because he's kind of fringe anyways, but I'm like, he probably deserves to be in there over, I don't even know who's going to get there, Hurdle for the Sharks, or, whoever's going to get there for Phoenix. I'm like, you don't need those guys. Have a, Epperly or, McCann deserves a shot. Like, he deserves some recognition. He deserves the spot in the spotlight versus some of these other guys. And I'm like, I don't feel too passionate anyway, but I guess if I had to pick, I'd say just have the best players.
Yeah, I think that's
Kevin, what do you think?
Argument.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would rather just see the best players, because honestly, like as Sean was mentioning, like who wants to see an athletic, who wants to see who off the Royals are you going to really throw in there? Like, I mean, there's certain teams who are like, I get why they do it, is to try to build more. It does and it doesn't at the same time. Like, you're trying to get from all markets to come watch the game, so to speak, so you can watch your boy, see what they do in the All-Star game. But at the same time too, like, if you have the best actually going at it and giving a crap, you'd think that would, like, if I'm a fan, if I'm a fan of baseball, like Kevin, like saying, like, I would want to watch because they're the best of the best going, not because Daniel Vogelbach's playing, and I'm going to watch because he might get in a bat. If I'm an Oakland A's fan, I shouldn't be disappointed that they're not in there. I should be more mad at my GM and my coach for not having a good team versus the league not picking somebody off of my team as a consolation pick. Like,
specifically with Oakland, it's more the ownership, but I get your point. They're refusing blatantly to spend any money.
And if there's multiple from a certain team that you don't like, say, like, for example, like the Yankees, if they have 4 from their team, like, be mad at your team by not getting all these also. Like, the Yankees are going out and getting these talents, stuff like that. Houston, places like that. The Dodgers, like, don't get mad at them because they have owners, that will actually pay money to go get people and draft well. Be mad at your own team's, front office for sucking, type of deal.
Yeah.
Well, segue into some Major League Baseball, and there has been some Mariners news since we were last on the podcast. The probably biggest news, at least for me, you guys will probably maybe have a different opinion, but the Mariners assigned AJ Pollock to a 1 year.
That is not the biggest news.
A 1 year, $7 million contract. So he's 35, and he looks like he is. I don't even see his position on here.
He's a left. He's gonna play left field.
He's gonna play left field.
All right. So, Sean, what does this move mean for the Mariners?
I mean, it's a fine move. Like, it's not like a game changer. It's not like, sign a career or something like that. But they needed a right-handed bat in the outfield, and he's a major league batter. Like, you knew you're gonna fill somebody out there. Is he like a world beater? No, he's an above average hitter, and that's why they got him. He mashes lefty hitting, so he's going to be in there to platoon probably with Kelnick, I assume. Yeah, or Trammell or whoever the lefty is out there. He's going to play the opposite of them. So, but yeah, that's what his job is for. He's a major league hitter, and it's fine. But that's what it is. It's fine. It's the word I would use to describe it. He is the most expensive hitter that has been signed during the Jerry Dipoto era, though. So that makes me sad. But $7 million will do that, I guess. I think it's a possibility of 10 if he meets his incentives or something like that. But yeah, it's regardless. It's not a lot of money.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of saddened. I would have rather been in like the Brian Reynolds sweepstakes, but
the rumor is, I heard, Kevin, real quick, is they're not moving him till the trade deadline. The Pittsburgh's like, we're just not even talking about it anymore. So the Mariners were probably in on it, but the Pirates are like, no, we're not. I just heard that today, so someone's talking about it.
But hopefully, and I imagine this is probably their thing. They're going to probably platoon him with Kelnick, and maybe like Trammell. If they bring up, like, if Kelnick gets hurt, then I guess you put Trammell or Marlowe plays outfield, doesn't he?
He does, but I believe he is a righty. So they're both righties.
So yeah, it's not really any news, to be honest. It's just kind of like a filler.
Oh, Kate Marlowe bats lefty. Okay, he throws righty. That's why I was confused.
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
So I like to see the young kids still get a shot. So hopefully they are platooned out there with them. Just because you have to see, like, this is the year where you have to decide what you do with Kelnick. Like, you can't just like beat around the bush with that anymore. And kind of the same with Trammell as well. Like, we've had him for so long. It's like, what are we doing with him? Kate Marlowe, you have still more time on, so there's not as much urgency, but those two, you kind of have to like press the button on what you're going to do with them this year. So like either platoon them and see if they actually have anything in the future, and then if they don't, like see if you can get anything like a McChicken from McDonald's for them or something. But yeah, pretty much no news, and not the biggest news in the offseason, Matthew.
Well, let me.
Kevin,
let me
I have
ask,
something to bring up.
Let me ask this question.
Okay,
though.
yeah.
Does this mean they are like not all in on Kelnick anymore? Like, is Kelnick like, is this like a contract year for Kelnick or something?
Well,
or
no, look, so as you know, most pitchers in baseball are righties, so Kelnick will get a majority of the playing time, and AJ can always DH. Like that's not a big deal. Like Kelnick is better in the field, so you're gonna let him play in the field. But yeah, like Kevin said, Kelnick, due to righty lefty splits, is probably just gonna get a ton more at bats than Pollock, and Pollock will get a ton of his at bats at DH. So this is a look for Kelnick
because Kelnick is a lefty. That helps him retain his spot, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Well, if they probably wouldn't have signed Pollock if he was if let's say Kelnick's a righty. They probably don't sign Pollock because he's also righty. They go after a lefty outfielder they would go after the opposite. Either way, Kelnick was going to get playing time, like Kevin said, which is correct. They have to figure out what Kelnick is, which is funny, Kevin, because Kate Marlowe is the oldest of the three. I agree your point, but it's just, when one guy goes to college and one guy's at high school, that's just how that works. But like, I was like, but yeah, like I agree. It is Trammell and Kelnick. We need to figure out what both of you are at this point. And this is Kelnick's, I don't want to say like last hurrah, but like for the Mariners, it's probably his last hurrah until then he would have to probably be moved. And some players just need that. Some players just need a change of scenery, like it's what it is. But
so are you saying if he doesn't emerge, they're shopping him or cutting him?
I mean, I wouldn't say cutting him because you could just stash him in AAA,
he's going to be down in Tacoma for
you don't have to do that. But and if someone comes up and is like, hey, I want to take a shot at Kelnick, I don't think the Mariners scoff at it and probably take people up on it, something like that. But yeah, this is his. I anticipate him being the starting opening day left fielder if they're facing a righty.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, depending on that, but yeah, I assume that that's the case.
And then I'll ask Kevin a different question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you nervous about Kelnick going into the season, or what are your feelings entering the season with Jared Kelnick?
It'll be interesting because he was batting better toward the end of the season. I'm hoping he hasn't literally stopped this whole off season. Like because he said that he's wanted this so bad, like he wanted to be the future with Julio for this franchise. Like you need to work butt off then because you haven't shown whereas Julio has shown what he can be, which is just an absolute beast. Kelnick has had some flashes. I mean, like when we sent him down to AAA, he was just scorching in AAA. So it's like AAA is not a problem for him. It's just big league bats because the pitching is obviously better. And defense is also better technically too. So I think not having the shift on is going to help him more to where he's not going to get as much unluckiness, when he smacks it to the right field. But am I worried? Not particularly because we're like I said, Kate Marlowe's back there. You have Trammell. There's other, people down the pipeline, and you could also go get one too. So am I worried? Not really. And then Haggerty's an okay like utility player and decent defensively from what we've seen from his small sample size so far. So am I worried? Probably not. But as Sean mentioned, we're getting to the nitty gritty. We're like this is like we're pretty much approaching you like you got to prove it, or we're going to move on from you, and then we're going to give kids behind you a shot. And you're either just going to sit in AAA until somebody like wants to come take a chance on you, or until you're like, well, my career, I'm like, I don't want to continue being a AAA star forever, so I'm just going to quit baseball, like, or go play in Japan, or Korea. So.
All right. Well, then I'm going to assume this is the biggest news that I saw you all tweeting about. I believe it was yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. The Mariners in the international draft have signed shortstop from the Dominican Republic, Felnine Celeste. I
I'd
don't
ask
know
Kevin
if
how to
that's,
pronounce it.
I don't know if
It's
that's
the
right.
Spanish guy over here.
Hold on, let me look at
Felnine Celeste. I Felnine, if you're on Twitter, just correct us, please. It says 4.9 million is the signing. Here, I'll show the tweet here because I can do that. So that is him right there, from Enrique Rojas of ESPN. What was that?
Felnine Celeste.
Okay, so that, yeah, what he said, and $4.9 million. I'm not sure how that works, but I'll let Kevin explain this. So, Kevin, what does this mean for the Mariners?
Well, I don't know, because the one I have from Players Development has an N on the last, like CLESTEN, and that has
yeah, I noticed that too. I just when you said that, I was like, he spelled it differently than I've seen other people write it out. So, but I assume he's more correct because he is also.
I mean, so then if there is no N, then it's just Celeste or Celeste. Yeah. This kid, this is, as Sean will mention, he's a big prospect internationally, and that's the reason why he got the money that he did. He is a big boy kid for his age and has a pretty good bat so far. From the little tape that I've seen of him, it's been pretty impressive. The way he controls the swing, like his stance. I like his swing. I haven't seen much of his tape defensively. I don't think I've seen actually any of his tape defensively. But I mean, we also have one of the best infield coaches in the league, so I'm not worried about that. And he's got time to develop that too. So, so this is big news because, as we already mentioned, we've given away 2 of our shortstop prospects, even though we have others cooking down below in the farm system. So it just makes it to where like there's hope at shortstop other than Crawford eventually. Like Crawford's time is running out, probably within the next, let's say 2 to 3 years, probably about 2 roughly, because what's his name, he's got the sweet last name, one that's already in, like he's in
position
for shortstop. He's in AA right now, I think. Oh God,
Axel Sanchez is
Axel.
down there.
Yeah, I was like, he's got the sweet name. Axel.
Is he at AA or did he end at high A?
He might be high A or AA. He's one of those.
Yeah, I don't know where he ended.
But I mean, he's shown some good stuff so far. Yeah, this kid on. And I think there's another shortstop prospect that's kind of in low A that people are having an eye on as well. I can't remember the name, but
yeah, Axel Sanchez ended at high A.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
So this just goes to show that he does. I mean, Crawford has time because they're but how much time do you lean on? I mean, like if Axel Sanchez shows something in the next year and a half, you might see Axel Sanchez at the end of 2024 season, like come up looking for that job. I mean, that's like, and I'm saying that as like that's a high case. I mean, he'd have to go like Julio numbers to do that, but
well, he is not the highest rated shortstop in the Mariners.
I know there's
Cole Young, who was the first round draft pick last year, is higher than him.
Oh yes,
and he tore up A ball, like he tore a new one. So he is not going to be starting at A ball next year.
So there's, like I said, Crawford better figure it out. He's got about 2 years. He better figure it out soon, or he's gone. Like Gold Glove don't mean crap. Like I can take somebody who's just a little bit less than a Gold Glove that has a way better bat than you, and do just as fine, especially with all the other talent that's around in that system at the moment. So, and real quick, I'll just kind of go down the list of who they signed and then pronounce the names here for y'all. Hold on. Kelvin Alcantara, Delfri Carrasco, Sebastian De Andrade, Kendall Meza, or Meza, depending on, I think that's Chilean flag that I see there. Yeah, that's that could be Uruguay. Rudy Navarro, it's like Rudolph Almi, and then K Robles. So there you go.
Sean, what did you think of the Mariners international signings?
Well, as someone who has talked about, I need to pronounce his name again, Kevin.
Felnine.
Felnine, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
Has talked about it for 2 years now. I was very excited. They've been looking at him since he just turned 16. He is 17 now. He is, again, the guy talked about it. The line I always remember is the Mount Rushmore of free agent shortstops, or as international shortstops, and he was on it. He was compared to Wander Franco and Lindor at 16. And 2 years later, they got him. They signed him he was projected to go for 4. He almost went for 5. He is the number 2 international prospect this year in all of baseball. Number 1 is a catcher. So there's a cattail. Catchers get a bump in value because they play any catcher who could sort of hit. Yeah, there we go. I'm actually wearing my Team Mila shirt, so there we go. Any catchers who can hit get a massive boost to value. So that's why he's rated more valuable. And I believe the Yankees got him. But yeah, the best all-around hitter is the guy we snagged. He's a switch hitter with real good defense. Smooth so far. I mean, he's got to get in the complex and get worked on. But yeah, everybody is very, very excited. He, like Kevin said, he's a big kid already. Yeah, he just turned 17. I'm pretty excited. They got actually 2 guys in the top 40, I believe it was, out of the international signing. I don't remember can't quote who the second one was.
It's the pitcher.
Yeah, I don't pretend to know super deep. I know the big guys, and the last
I saw his tape was not bad.
No, yeah, I trust what the Mariners are doing international.
I think it's Mesa, Kendall Mesa.
Oh, so I just looked at Celeste was 6'2", 180 at 16, so he's probably bigger now. So he's a big kid. His body is not going to be an issue. So I'm pretty excited.
Sean, this is Pika. When can we expect Felnine to get in on the team?
Oh gosh, I mean, you hope it's a Julio trajectory, but Julio is like, Julio and Juan Soto and Wander Franco are the exceptions to the rule. They're not the norm. To get up and be an all-star at 21, I'm hoping he is playing at 22. But I mean, if he is who he's supposed to be, it could be a Wander Franco. It could be like Wander Franco is playing at 19.
I'll say earliest September call-ups 2024, and that's pushing.
That's when he's 19. Yeah,
that's pushing.
That's probably it. That's
super pushing.
The absolute super earliest. But I would say probably around Julio's time is probably a more reasonable still to maybe early, because again, Julio is a unicorn. He came up and not was like good. He was like a top 5 hitter in baseball. Like, yeah, guys we think are good, like that we named aren't even that. So like even all-stars, they were like, man, that guy was really good from day one. Mike Trout wasn't even that. Like that's really rare what Julio did. So like I'll take a year of struggling and then be good, like from these young kids, because they're so young. Like Mike Trout struggled at 19 and was like, I'm 20, I'm gonna be the best player. But even that's kind of rare. So I think he's 21, 22 is like a reasonable. So for 4 years, he might be a Mariner in 4 years.
And just to clarify, because I Googled it and every other thing had it with an N at the end.
Oh, okay.
So Celestin or Celestin.
Yeah, that's what it has on Fangraphs officially. But yeah, no, like Kevin, they have him, Arroyo, Axel Sanchez, Cole Young. They have shortstops. They got Axel. Arroyo and Celeste.
It makes that Castillo deal look so fucking good. Sorry for my language. It makes it look so good.
All of them have been international amateur drafts since 2019. God. None of the guys I mentioned are. Axel Sanchez is the oldest, and he just turned like days ago.
20, I think was
turned 20.
Yeah.
And these kids, other than Axel, who got 30 at bats in high A last year and kind of struggled in 30 at bats, killed it in A, like as a 19-year-old, like 160 WRC plus, like killed it. Yeah, he's been 20 for a month. Like they are doing the right thing. They traded a ton of shortstops, like Kevin said, to get Castillo, and then just went ham on shortstops, because you could always make a shortstop a second baseman. It's hard. It's almost impossible to make a second baseman a shortstop. So they're going the right way with this.
Yep.
Yeah, All right. Yeah, fantastic news.
Well, let us know what you thought of the Mariners international draft. AJ Pollock agreeing to a 1-year deal. Go ahead and tweet us. I'm at _Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev is at SEA2Believe. That's C2Believe. And we're going to get to the end of the Seahawks season in 1 second. But I got to ask you guys, there's football still in Seattle next month, right? It's called the Seattle Sea Dragons. That's right. The XFL. It is back. The Seattle Sea Dragons start their season February 19th. That's a Sunday at the DC Defenders on ESPN. Then they have their home opener 5 days later, Thursday, February 23rd, 6 p.m. Pacific time against the St. Louis Battlehawks. You can watch that on FX. So let me just gauge interest. Any interest in the Sea Dragons? Kevin, I'm looking at you, and that says no.
I mean, if there's nothing else on, but
so no.
But that won't happen for me, because I'm now going into my, technically because of what I had, it's my favorite time of the year, which is PBA season, which starts right after football. So I'm most likely probably not going to be, because most shows are on Sunday. But I mean, I'm interested to see what Josh Gordon does, to see if he still has anything left in the tank, and not get, suspended from that league. I mean, I'll probably watch one of the games, or at least watch the highlights, if not on YouTube, just to see, like, because I mean, there are players that have come out of there to be, serviceable, backups to, rotation guys on certain teams. I mean, PJ Walker, even though he's turned out to be not so good for Carolina, I liked what he did in the XFL.
He's a backup. I mean, he's a backup.
He's a serviceable backup. Yeah. And also, to PJ Walker's credit, there's not a whole lot in Carolina right now.
Yeah.
Versus like everybody's like crapping about Purdy, and it's like, you realize you have the best left tackle in the league, and all your weapons are like people would kill for that, for Debo, Ayuk, and McCaffrey, and freaking oh my God,
George
Kittle. Like that's a quarterback's dream of weapons, like literally. So and we'll get into that a little bit as we get into the Seahawks talk, but like I said, I'll watch a little bit of it, but I'll be preoccupied probably watching Belmo do crazy things.
Sean, any interest in the Sea Dragons?
Yeah, last time the XFL was on, I thought it was a cool product. I didn't watch it like I do most Sundays, but I think a league like that is important to get more eyes on players, and for leagues to try things, baseball is minors. That's a different issue, but it's more guys to live their dreams, minors, and to have more, I would say, more fun than the NFL lets players have. And I think if they embrace that and let, celebrations do crazy stuff, I think it'd be a pretty fun product to put on. Little less WWE, a little more actual football, but they were doing that the second time. It was more about the football actually, and less about Vince McMahon's ego the second time. So I was good for that. But yeah, I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
I went to a Seattle Dragons game in 2020 before everything shut down. I think it was the only one. It was fun to have football in February that wasn't the Seahawks. Am I excited? I don't know, man. I kind of like having football in just one season and then watching it then and then just moving on to the Kraken, who I'm going to move on to since the Seahawks are done. And then the Mariners start in April. And, I'm sure I'll probably watch some Sea Dragons football, but it's not super on my radar.
Watch some
And
PBA with me.
what?
So watch some PBA with me, baby. No,
I mean,
you don't want to
it's not
watch
that I don't like
ever?
bowling, but bowling for TV sounds awful. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'm sorry. I like bowling, but on TV it sounds not great. But that's what people say about golf, and I like that. So it's up to everybody's own individual taste. So, but yeah, we'll see how the Secret Dragons turn out. And like Kevin said, I do want to see how Josh Gordon looks. I'm just very curious to see how he looks on a football field. So we'll see how that goes. But let us talk about the National Football League. Seattle Seahawks ended their season on Saturday. But before we get to that, we have missed one final regular season game. The Seahawks hosted the Los Angeles Rams. They won 19-16 in overtime. Just some quick numbers. 19 of 31, 213, one touchdown, 2 picks. Kenneth Walker, 29 for 114. Tyler Lockett, 454 and 1. Baker Mayfield, 13 for 26, 147, 1 pick. Cam Akers, 21 for 104. Van Jefferson, 3 for 61. They needed the Lions to help them out, and the Lions roared past Aaron Rodgers. So Lions, we love you. Thank you very much for that. And then they had the reward of going to play the San Francisco 49ers in San Francisco. Well, sorry, Santa Clara, technically. And they lost 41-23 on Saturday. Quick stats: 25 of 35 Geno, 253, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick for Geno. Kenneth Walker, 15 for 63 and a touchdown. DK, 10 for 136 and 2. Brock Purdy on the San Francisco side, 18 of 33, 32, 3 touchdowns, no picks. Christian McCaffrey, 15 for 119, and receiving Debo, 6 for 133 and 1. So, Sean, what did you think of the end of the regular season as well as the playoffs for the Seahawks to end their season?
They did not play well against the Rams. I don't want to call them the Rams because they did not play the Rams this year. They played like the JV Rams this year. But they did enough. The Rams packed it in shamelessly, but still gave the Seahawks an OT game, which made me sad. But they won in the end, and then the Lions helped them out. I do remember, I think we're on this podcast a couple weeks ago. I was like, I think the Seahawks are going to get it. They're going to do something stupid, and they're going to get into the playoffs.
You were the only one who said it.
And it was nothing other than Pete Carroll luck. I was like, Pete Carroll's just lucky. Like, it's just going to work out. And that's what happened. That was my whole logic. There's nothing evidence-based that it was going to happen. I'm like, that guy's just lucky, and it's just what's going to happen. And it's exactly what happened. And then they ran into a buzzsaw, and that's what happens. The 2 games, because we're going to share our thoughts later, overall, they just didn't play well. They don't have enough bullets in the chamber on both sides of the football yet. It's just, it looks kind of like the same both games. I think we can confidently say the 49ers are better than the Seahawks. And Pete Carroll acknowledged that today. He said that. He said the 49ers are better than us. I said, well, it's obvious. Yes, it's been obvious for 3 games. But good to acknowledge it and try to improve on that. The 49ers, Shanahan is just real good at his job. They're just good and they're talented on defense, man. They whooped up on the Seahawks pretty good. Geno played fine. Made some mistakes when he did. He played fine. Like, it wasn't like, I think he's the 4th best quarterback in this wildcard weekend this year. This is what the numbers play out to be. So he's fine. He made 2 very big mistakes, but he was fine for the most part. It's just DK showed up. I'll say that. Now think about it. DK got absolutely punked in 2 games against the 49ers. And I've been saying for a long time, like, DK, you want to be a number 1. When Tyler goes down, you've got to step up. You got to do your thing. And the 49ers double teamed Tyler. They had safety over the top. They had this guy, and DK showed up. 49ers didn't respect him at all for 3 games. They're like, we're going to leave you ward on you one-on-one, do something. And he did nothing in 2 games. And then they finally needed him, and DK showed up. And so I'm proud that DK did his thing. and he showed up when they needed him to. Gino played fine. The O-line played fine considering the dogs that they have on the other side of that line. Like they just, the San Francisco D-line's just crazy, and they did well enough, a couple rookies, a couple, interior guys need to be changed out, but they did fine considering. It's just that the 49ers are more talented than the Seahawks are, just in almost every facet. So it's kind of what it was. It was fun to be up at halftime, but it quickly went away. So, but it's fine. It's a building block, I hope.
Yeah, and the Rams game, that one, I was able to watch the whole game. Wasn't pretty. When Jason Myers doinked it at the end of regulation, I'm like, they're gonna tie, aren't they? They're gonna find a way to tie this game, and then it's just gonna go down to Lions Packers, which, it might have been fitting for them to go 8-1 and just be perfectly 500. Like that would have probably been.
Yeah, don't go online about that Seahawks Rams game. Ugh.
Pretty poetic. And Gino throwing a pick on the very first play, and then 2 to Jalen Ramsey total. I will give kudos to Gino for bouncing back and not letting that get to him and leading this team to a win. That interception in overtime where Quandre Diggs came over and made that interception, like it looked like he was open when the camera initially panned to him, and then Quandre comes in and picks that ball off. So
that's the difference in arm strength and being able to throw it really far. Because that was not arm strength. He could throw really far, but it was a moon ball. It took forever to get to.
Yeah. He that moon ball did allow Quandre to get over. So
Quandre
did make the play.
He covered the ground. Absolutely. But that is the difference between arm strength and arm talent, and couldn't get it there.
And Bobby Wagner got the reception he deserved. We didn't talk about that before the game, but Bobby looks great. Man, it would be great to have him in a Seahawks uniform, but that is not the case. 49ers game, I was cooking for the most part for Lauren's birthday, so I wasn't really able to watch much of it. I caught the Seahawks first touchdown with Kenneth Walker, and then I caught the DK touchdown, and then I caught the field goal to take the lead. I'm like, am I missing a good game? And then I watched part of the second half, and I was like, no, I was not. I was able to finally sit down when they were in the red zone with Gino, and then he fumbled, and then the wheels came off, and I'm like, maybe I should just not watch and it'll get better. It didn't get better. So, like Sean said, 49ers are just the better team. And, if it wasn't evidenced by numbers, it's evidenced by them winning 3 of the meetings, which was the season sweep. So, we'll get to the end of the season thoughts, but that's all I had on the games. Kevin?
Yeah, the Rams game. I think a lot of Seahawks fans are going to forget like they did this year with the 49ers. Because the 49ers had pretty essentially what the Rams had this year, where they just got plagued with injuries. And then going into the year, some of us, majority of it, us on this podcast, gave them respect. But most of what I saw on Twitter, people were like, oh, they're trash and stuff like that. I'm like, no, they just were really hurt last year. They're actually a really good football team. And they showed it this year. People are going to do the same thing with Rams. The Rams are a very good football team. They just got murdered in injuries this year. As Sean mentioned, it was literally the JV squad. It was all backups.
Yeah. When you don't play Cup, Stafford, Donald all year, you didn't play the Rams. I'm sorry, you didn't play the
Rams. Now their O-line is worse than what it was last, so that's something they do need to address. They were also
good. Their center was literally a police officer, so probably an issue.
Their left tackle was a taker.
Well, Sean, police officers protect and serve, so
he didn't protect the whole lot, but yeah.
So I'm warning Seahawks fans now, because I'm seeing a lot of stupid crap on Twitter, and I'm going to get into that for a little bit here in a moment. They're going to be good next year. This division is, we're going to be very lucky. I know, with Cliff Kingsbury, we'll probably get third, depending on what goes on in Arizona. But it's going to be.
They hired somebody today. They hired a GM today.
You mean a coach?
A GM.
They hired a GM.
They fired Kime?
Kime was gone before Cliff Kingsbury was.
Oh, was he? Oh,
it was a package deal, I think.
I only heard about Kingsbury, so sorry.
Yeah, Cliff.
good.
Klein left like
Keim is terrible. Keim
Oh,
is
he's
terrible.
he's
Cliff is
so
in
bad.
Thailand and he's not coming back.
Yeah, I know that. Like, but because I was like, why did they get rid of Cliff and not Keim? I'm like, that makes no sense because Keim was terrible at his job, but we literally did nothing. Okay, so that makes sense. But it's literally going to be a dogfight of the Rams and 49ers. Just it's going to be brutal. So yeah, that game was just it's sad that we only beat him by we should have beat him by a lot more, but like Geno just disappears. The defense just had problems. Like, I mean, yeah, he had the drive in the in OT, which was the second drive, did nothing on the first drive. But like Kenneth Walker had an okay day, and we're gonna get into that in a little bit. All in all, you won. You probably should. I would have just preferred to take the loss and get the better higher draft pick, because what we did going into the play, like who gives a crap? We're out of the playoffs now. So we went into the playoffs and got murdered by the 49ers. Woohoo. Now we have a worse draft pick. Like, was it worth it to cheer on as like we're getting punched in the face over and over again? Like, it makes no sense. But I prefer us getting a playoff chance when we have an actual chance, other than like a meteor hitting every other team's bus and killing half of them. So 49ers, yeah, really good team. Brock Purdy doesn't really have to do much. I think yes, he's played well, but I mean, like I said, everything around him is stacked, literally. Like I could be behind center and I could probably have taken him to the playoffs. Like, just saying. It'll be interesting to see what they do next year at quarterback, and especially since a couple of contracts are going to be due. But Seahawks, yeah, defensively, they just pooped themselves, especially after the fumble. Like it was a close, actually, I was surprised. It was a very close, tight game up until the half. And then the fumble happened, and then Geno disappeared. And then the defense kind of just disappeared. And they're all just kind of like, well, screw it. This is it. It was fun up until that. And now they're better than us and we can't do anything about it because they just keep punching us in the mouth. It's what happens when you have a coach and GM that draft good and get free agents good for the last 7 years, and ours have only done it once in the last 7 years. That's the difference that you see. So drafting 1 good year is nice, but it doesn't mean crap when your division rivals are doing it literally every single year for the last 6-7 years. You can't catch up to that. It's just ain't gonna happen, folks. But 12s have this miraculous, like, oh, we're doing great. Like Pete Carroll, like I was talking to a couple of them on Twitter. Like they're like, well, what do you think Pete Carroll should be fired still? I'm like, because he got lucky as crap. Sean even already mentioned it. Like Geno was top in the league for most drop interceptions in the red zone, right? For quarterbacks.
He's number one. Yeah, he had 7.
Yeah, number one. We faced on a 4th place schedule. We literally just barely went over 500, and we faced a lot of teams with a lot of like dead players, like the Rams, like the Lions at the time. Literally, were missing their top 3 receivers. The Giants were missing their top 2 receivers and a bunch of O-linemen.
But to be fair, the Giants have no receivers even healthy. But
correct. But the Giants are going to.
They didn't have either tackle. The Giants didn't have either tackle playing.
Yeah.
They have the
best. And also, like I said, they're on a 4th place schedule too, so they look better than what they are this year. They're going to regress next year. It's going to happen, especially with Dallas and Eagles getting better. It's not going to be a thing. And with the Rams being back too, they won't make playoffs unless somebody dies. Like unless half the team dies in their division, somebody else on the other team. But it's like we got so freaking lucky, and 12s are just oblivious to it. Absolutely oblivious. They're just like, Pete Carroll is Jesus. And I'm like, okay, let's look at that. So because
are we talking about the overall season now? I guess
I think we've moved on to that. Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay, yeah, let's transition to
keep
that.
Going. No,
okay.
keep going.
You're already there. Go ahead.
Yeah, go.
So let's go. Pete Carroll. Okay, let's talk about this. Defensively, because like there's a guy on Twitter, he's like, oh, the only problem now is the defense. I'm like, no, that's not the problem now. That's been the problem for the last 5 years. 5 to 6 years. That defense has been terrible. And it's not because of defensive coordinators, it's because of Pete Carroll. Because Pete Carroll doesn't know how to draft defensive players. As Sean's going to mention too here in a little bit, he likes to take risks. and like projects for some stupid reason, not only on defensive players, but on offensive too, but more on defense. He likes to take these project players and thinks that he can build them up, and then it doesn't work out. Like, it's only worked once with Brooks so far. And the crazy part is, after Brooks left, the run defense got better. That's what's nutty. Like, the run defense actually was better once Brooks left.
Yeah, I was gonna say, did it work with Brooks? I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think it did.
I don't think that's the case.
I mean, he's the second leading tackler in the NFL.
Yeah, but I think the
Brooks
draft picks
there.
I still think the picks better spent elsewhere. You didn't need to spend it on Brooks. I'm just sorry. That's like a whole different thing.
Oh yeah, like I'm seeing dumb 12s on Twitter. They're like, "Oh, Kenneth Walker is so great. Like, oh my god, I'm so glad we drafted him in the second round." It's like, no, get a better value pick out of your second round picks than a running back. We could have gotten a running back later on the draft, and it would have been. I mean, shit, would he done Kenneth Walker stuff? Maybe-ish, but like, even though Kenneth Walker wasn't the most. Kenneth Walker wasn't the best rookie running back this year. No, like literally, his yards after contact.
It's not even. It's actually not even close.
Yards after contact was 1.8. That is trash because he tries to Golden Tate it too much and go off to the side. And literally, he just doesn't have the vision yet of tunnels. Now he's a rookie, so I'm going to give him a little credit. He can't.
Yeah, it's.
But like, I'd rather not spend that second round pick there. I'd rather go get a D-line where our top freaking guy is Nwosu. Thank God we got him in the offseason. And our second guy is Bruce Irvin, who couldn't tackle worth a crap in the 49er game. Actually, you can really tackle worth a crap for most of the games, but because he's old, he's 35. Like, that's your second best D lineman. Like, that's terrible. But for some weird juju magic, Pete Carroll is never blamed for having a god-awful defense, and he's never reprimanded for it by the fans or Jody Allen. And I don't get it. Like, what does the dude have to do? Like, does the defense have to give up 100 points in a game for like the fans to realize, oh, Pete Carroll actually sucks at his job? Like, and then they're like, well, Geno had a better season. I'm like, okay, cool, but do you think Pete Carroll brought that out of Geno? No, he's a defensive coach. That's stupid. That'd be like freaking saying like Harbaugh brought out a quarterback, like made a defensive coach like that, made another quarterback. It's not, no. Literally Waldron, and the fact that he has two really talented pieces around him. Tyler Lockett makes every quarterback look better because Tyler Lockett's a top 3 receiver in the freaking league. And then you have a big boy DK who still doesn't know how to properly use his body. But as Sean mentioned, yes, he did play better in the Niners game. He actually showed up. He still needs to learn how to use his body better. And that's sad because he's what, year 4 now? 3, 4?
4.
Like, dude, like I don't get how you're so freaking jacked and you use your body like 40% of the time. I don't understand. Like, how is there nobody in that room like telling him, be like, bro, use your body to beat the corners out, like to box them out of stuff. Like, I don't know. Yes, Geno had a better season than though Geno also was gone for like entire halves of games for almost half the freaking season. Like, did it get better? No. I think this team is better with Russell Wilson on it for the whole season. Like, we make a better push probably and have a better chance against 49ers with Russell Wilson behind center. And just Russell Wilson is going to look better probably with a better coach next season if he gets a better coach. Just Nathaniel Hackett is not a head coach. Sorry. But unfortunately, people like him get a chance because Aaron Rodgers makes, offensive coordinators look good because Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. So it's, as a seasonal nutshell, it's just, we got very, very lucky. And I'm so tired of seeing 12s praising Pete for it. Like, praise the players. Stop praising Pete. Pete didn't do anything. He just rah-rahed on the sideline like an 80-year-old cheerleader. Like, yes, he had him and Schneider had a good draft. So here's the thing. If you're going to give Pete the credit for that draft, then you have to get on Pete for the last 7 years of not drafting. So it's either or. Either you can't get or you get on Schneider for it. You have to decide. Like, you can't praise Pete for having the good draft this year and not get him on for the last 7 12s. That's just unacceptable. Like, he has to be reprimanded for that. period. Like, it doesn't outdo it. And the 49ers showed you that it doesn't outdo it. Like, that's the reason why the 49ers are probably going to make the NFC Championship and have a decent shot of doing it, because they're just stacked everywhere other than quarterback, and they're just not making the quarterback doing a whole lot. So I think it'll be a good game if it becomes Eagles, and I imagine it will probably be Eagles Niners. But did we strive better? Yes, I hope we build off of this, but like, people like so optimistic with like Geno going forward and stuff like that. Can Geno get better? Yes. Can his ceiling take us to and win us a Super Bowl? Probably not. Like, I think his ceiling is maybe getting us a playoff win or two. But like, the whole fact that he disappeared for literally an entire half a game for like I said, almost half of games is not good, people. Like, his stats from the other previous halves that he actually showed up just make it look better, so to speak. But if you actually watch the game, he disappeared quite often. Like, you just can't have that for a quarterback that you want to strive in the future. You need to go and get a quarterback with that 5th overall pick and either let the kid play if he's good enough, like Stroud, or Boyd. Oh, no, what's his name?
Bryce Young.
Bryce Young. Yeah, I don't know. I was going to say Tyler Boyd. I was like, what the hell? Bryce Young. If they're good enough, let him go. But I'm so tired of this defense being a hot pile of poo every year and Pete not getting the blame for it. Like, I don't understand why. I get you, Pete got you to a Super Bowl, or helped get you to a Super Bowl, but it wasn't all Pete. Like, the players did it too. Yes, he went and got those players because he knew what they were, because he came from college and they were good in college. So he went and got them. But ever since that cycle rotated out in 2013, it's been hot dog poo, except for the last season, the last draft. And I don't know what happened there. Honestly, I think it's more John. And a lot of it, you have to get on John too. It's like, unfortunately, with Pete having the power, you don't know who's picking. It's hard to tell if it's Pete or John. Because normally, if in a normal situation, you'd blame John because most of the GMs have the power over it. But unfortunately, this is a different situation and Pete does. So 12s, do your research, look at advanced stats, for the love of God, instead of just being like, oh, this was great. Yeah, sure. 9-8 season, was better than what I expected, but it's not something that we should be happy for. We got super lucky, and we're going into next year with a 2nd place schedule. And we're playing the AFC North that has a lot of good teams in it. So
maybe Lamar Jackson will be there next year, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Sounds like he won't be.
Very hard to say.
So, Baltimore without him looks like a lot crappier of a team.
Yes. And then I think we play for the NFC.
We play the NFC
East. And that has a lot of good teams. Like, well,
It is two.
Yeah.
The Giants are not a good football team, but it is.
Yeah, that's true. But still, and then, like I said, the Rams are going to be better, and the Niners are still going to be very good. So it's like, your window is like, you literally have to start drafting good now. Like, everybody's expectation of like, oh my God, we're going to do so much better. No, we're going to get worse next year, folks, because everybody around us is getting better at a more progressive rate, because they've been drafting and doing stuff better than Pete and John. We just had one good year. Yes, we should build off of that and continue to grow to have better seasons in like 2024, 2025. But next year, like, it's really questionable. There's a lot of stuff, and we'll get into that, in further future podcasts. So sorry, I've gone on long enough, and I'm going to pass it off to the boys, but 12s, pay attention. Holy crap, stop being 12 IQ 12s. Pay attention.
I'll let Matthew follow that up. I don't want to follow that.
Sure. I mean, overall, I thought the season was great. I mean, we all predicted 6 wins, 5 wins, and for them to be over 500, earn a playoff spot, what is there to complain about? Sure, they didn't play great in all the games. They lost the NFC South. Like, luck plays a factor in everything, so I don't really care about that. Was their schedule super difficult? No, but they don't control that. They everyone's best players. No, they don't control that either.
They do control the schedule.
I mean, kind of.
By being good.
Okay, so
you get bad schedules by being bad.
Okay, whatever. Like
No,
whatever. Like the
correct.
teams are put in front of them. Like they don't really
Yes,
control
if they
that.
had
So
been a better team, they would have played harder teams. Yeah, but they
cool.
weren't.
Okay, so they don't really
They do
control that.
it, but
They
yeah,
don't really control that. They don't really
They
control
do,
that.
absolutely
They
do.
don't. They do not.
The 49ers played a harder schedule.
And you know,
They
the
were better.
critics will have their reasonings why they predicted Seattle season wrong. You know, you got luck. You didn't play everyone's best team. I don't really care about that. They did what they had to do with the schedule in front of them. And I know a lot of critics won't say this, but I'll be the one to say it. I was wrong about the 2022 Seattle Seahawks. I'm a fan of the Seahawks. Very happy I was wrong. And I was super excited for them to make the playoffs, be above 500. So from that perspective, I'm very happy with the season. I think going into the offseason, we can conclude a few things. I think Gino has earned a spot on this roster for next year. If John and Pete want to draft a quarterback, I disagree, but they seem to have a decent eye for talent by drafting Russell Wilson. They talked about Mahomes and Allen, so you know they put their faith
They
in
talk
Gino.
about other people and not say it.
What?
Did they talk about like Sam Darnold and just not say that?
Like
that's what I'm saying. Like you hear like the good ones, like we almost drafted Mahomes, we almost drafted Allen. I'm like, did they almost draft like Sam Darnold and Rosen? We don't know.
Then
they gave
go
them good
ask
ones.
them. Like what
like,
you're like making up scenarios that are
no,
what ifs that
saying,
are
like,
not possible.
Told you
like
when
you
they
don't
missed
know.
the good ones. They honestly told you they missed
It's like
good
Schrodinger's cat. Like they could have said anything and you don't know it until they say it out loud. Like
okay, but
what is that argument?
Own up for everything. You said
a terrible argument
for talent. They could have said we're gonna draft every quarterback for the next 40 years.
Sean's point is that they're not going to come out and say, well, we were looking at Josh Rosen after Josh Rosen turned out to be a bust. Yeah, like, they're not going to say that because it makes them look bad. They're not going to say something out loud that makes them look bad. Like at my job, I'm not going to say something that I do that makes me look bad.
Came out, we're like, we were going to draft Russell Wilson. No, the Seahawks drafted Russell Wilson. I don't care what you thought you were going to do. Like, I don't care about who they thought they were going to draft. You could give them credit for drafting Russell and playing Gino, but I don't give them shit for we thought about Mahomes. No, shut up. Like, just shut up.
Then I don't give them credit for maybe thinking about Sam Darnold. Like, okay, so
that's exactly
ridiculous.
All of those like, don't exist.
Okay, so
none of it matters.
Anyway,
none of that matters.
Anyway, I would say Gino had played well enough to earn a spot on this roster for next year. We'll see what they do with the rest of the quarterbacks on the roster. If they draft one, you know, will Drew Lock be here next year? That's to be determined. Will they maybe go after a free agent? Hard to say, but based on the comments from Pete and Gino after the game and Pete's show today, it sounds like if there is a deal to be made, it will be made with Gino. And I'm perfectly happy with Gino as the quarterback because I want what the San Francisco 49ers have. I want the roster around the quarterback to be so good that the quarterback does not have to be asked to do much, because hitting on an elite quarterback is very, very difficult to do. And filling out the roster with some depth pieces, I feel like is the route to go at this point.
It's harder to do, but that's fine.
The second thing about the offseason, I know Kevin just went off about fire Pete. I don't get it. He wins football games. You know, the defense has not been great in the last few years, and he's a defensive coach. I mean, I don't really care about that. I care about winning football games, and they've been one of the most successful teams in the league since he took over. They had a bad season last year. They had a good season this year when everybody wrote him off. So I don't like Pete Carroll being the coach, mainly because he's over 70. And if you want to call it ageist, that's fine. That's perfectly legitimate. I am an ageist when it comes to this. I don't want anyone over 70 running something that I'm a part of. I don't want a president over 70. I don't want an over 70. I don't want a coach over 70. But based on this season and the amount of success he had with the expectations he has certainly earned another season. Now, let me go on the record and say that if he has another losing season, I am all for firing Pete. All for it. But at this point, he had a winning season. He made the playoffs when everyone expected them to be absolutely awful, and he got them to the playoffs. So for that, he deserves another season. And like I said, if he has a losing season, all for firing Pete. But at this point, I don't have any ammo for the fire Pete crowd because there's nothing.
Okay,
there's nothing.
I just have a quick question. Just follow up on yours. They lose the Ram games. So if they lose the Ram game, you fire Pete because that's a losing season.
Yeah.
Man, that's one So if the game was called officiated correctly, then you fire Pete.
This is what I've been talking about. Like,
called officiated
Matt,
correctly. Like you could say that every single game,
Advanced
everything can be
stats.
holding, everything can be this. You can't nitpick on one thing and say this is why they won, because that's not true, and you know that. So it's
I mean, everybody else in the world except for some Seahawks fans are like, that game was fair. I'm like, it was not fair. I'll take the win and take the playoffs, but like, let's just be real here. Like, that was a horribly officiated game for one team. It was. It's fine.
Matt, let me ask you: do the Pittsburgh Steelers have a good season?
yeah, actually, yeah, I'd say so.
But
Yeah,
they didn't make the playoffs.
they didn't make playoffs. No.
Correct, because they didn't do enough to win because they have other better things that happened. Now, we had the Rams not died, we don't make the playoffs. The thing is, you have to realize when you look back at it, all our wins were won by like one score essentially. Pretty much all of them we won by one score, and then every loss that we had was damn near a blowout.
That is not true at all.
Yeah, that's not true.
Not true at all. Like not even close, frankly.
Let's go back.
Yeah, it's not even
Look,
close.
You can
And
just-
and also based on the
were
evidence we have
blowout.
this season, like the whole Russ argument needs to stop because Russ was absolutely awful
no,
in
one
Denver.
we're not
And
doing
you
one season
cannot
thing. Like,
Base
One
your
season.
okay, so one season the other way doesn't make a difference either. So
I tweeted
you
that out
can't-
before the season started. I said it's a 2-year thing for everybody. Like, one season doesn't decide this one way or the other.
I'm basing
Yeah,
Pete
yeah.
off of more than
Mhm.
one
2
season.
years.
yeah. Yeah.
2 years.
Totally get your argument. The guy who had barely more touchdown passes than bathrooms. Yeah. Totally
But
good.
let's shut off Russell for 1 year. But for Pete being a dog shit defensive head coach for the last 6, you don't want to get rid of him?
How many losing seasons
Okay.
has he had?
It's not because of him.
How
though.
many losing
Russell
seasons has he
got
had?
him those seasons though.
Did
And
he?
they got rid
Because
of him.
Russ on Denver has shown that is definitely not the
Because
case at
his
this point.
coach had Down syndrome.
How
Okay,
many
okay,
times
okay. I
can
wanna-
we use
I
the
wanna
coach
talk
as an
about mine.
excuse
I wanna
before
talk
we
about
say
mine.
that it's the guy?
I want to talk about my timeout. I want to talk about my season. I'll say this: one season doesn't mean anything. Nick Foles beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. It's got to be, everything is in 2 seasons, like minimum. So, okay. I've said that before. Like, regardless of how either way went out, I could pull up the tweet. I said it is a 2-year window, like for everything. Like, one season lies all the time. Blake Bortles went to an AFC Championship game, for fuck's sake. Like, none of these guys play football anymore. The other guy was Case Keenum. Holy shit! Like, yeah, that was a thing that happened not too long ago, actually. I will say this was a fun year. They went to the playoffs. Yeah, I think I had them at 5 wins. I think Vegas had them at 5.5, or so 5 or 6. They won 9. I view this as, I think I tweeted out, the 2001 Mariners. I viewed this as their actual record's probably like a 7-win team. They got some bounces, and that's fine, but they're a 7-win team. So coming off of it, like the Mariners when they won 90 games a couple years ago, we all knew that they weren't a 90-win team. They were worse. The Mariners, didn't they win 90 exactly this last year too?
Yeah.
And the Mariners this last year were clearly better than the year before. Despite what the win-loss says, we know the Mariners in 2022 were a much better team than the team in 2021. That's the point. Like, the Seahawks can win 9 games next year, and I would probably feel better about it because they're not a 9-win team this year. They're a 7-win team this year. And all I got from the season was, I was like, hey, so I'll agree with both of you at some parts. Pete did a lot of things that I wanted him to do this year. He basically checked his ego at the door, did everything Russell really asked of him, and it worked out well. They finished the 4th most aggressive passing team in football. The year before, they were 17th with Russell. Russell said, hey, I want to be the focal point. I want the quarterback to be the focal point. He let the quarterback be the focal point. Geno played really well for the first 6 games and then regressed really hard. But he got hot when it mattered, because if Geno was not hot, this team is not a 500 team, because they needed Geno to be hot in the beginning. Because, like Kevin said, that defense was a dumpster fire early. Like, oh my gosh, a dumpster fire early. If Geno is not Geno in the first 5 weeks, they're 0-5. Season's over first 5 weeks. It's done. They don't beat the Broncos. They don't beat the Lions. Like, Geno had to ball out, and he did those first couple weeks. He didn't against the 49ers, but again, we talked about it. The 49ers are good. They probably should have won the Falcons game, but they got a little unlucky in that game. They were better than the Falcons. It's just it's bounces. But and all in all, I think they did a lot. Pete also played rookies. He played young kids finally, which is what I've always wanted him to do. Stop sitting on guys. It would have been really nice if he played Cody Barton. Cody Barton was actually probably the best linebacker on this team, and it's a shame it took him 5 years or 4 years to actually play him. Now he's a free agent. Like, that's the things I've been like, why are you doing this stupid stuff? Why are you doing all these things? Cody Barton might be good, but then you draft Jordan Brooks. You're just spending your resources. You're spending on the same position. Let the guy you drafted with a pretty high pick play. He let the kids play. He let him play all year. Kobe Bryant had a really bad poor touchdown that should have been a touchdown because in week 1 when Russell threw a moon ball up, a corner should have stopped that ball. Kobe Bryant has a terrible route, everything, touchdown. And he let him keep playing. Didn't play him a ton, but let him keep playing. Didn't sit him down and like Marquise and Blair him and never let him play because we have to let the older guy play. Like, he let the young guy play. And I'm like, thank you for letting your tackles play, letting all those guys play. And Pete, thank you for drafting the first draft. Like Kevin said, the first draft I've liked in 6 years. And look at this. It's a good draft. He had a good process. He went into it analytically driven. Matthew shared with us in our group chat. He hired 2 analytics people. Turns out he might have listened a little bit. He drafted pass first tackles, drafted 2 of them. That's what Russell wanted. He finally did it. He played them both all year. Like, and they got beat up a little bit at the end of the year. That's something we'll talk about in the offseason. All of their good rookies, it was really awesome in the beginning, and then they really all regressed. I don't want to look too much into that as in projecting them future. Maybe that's just the end of the year. Could be a little worried that the film's out on basically everybody, and that's why they across the board all got worse, but defense included. But I would like to think that maybe that's just rookie lumps. They all just kind of took them as the team went. And again, at the end of the year, the team did play the 49ers twice. That's going to make even all pro tackles look really bad. Those guys are really good. So it's just, the Chiefs can draft D linemen really well for some reason too. They beat up the Seahawks O line. So it's fine that they did, but Pete let Geno cook. He let him pass, thankfully. He didn't do second and long runs. He was like the 4th least team to do that too. Thank God. Look at that, Pete, you're learning. And he let the young kids play. So he let the young kids play. I agree with Matthew. He probably should be the coach next year. I mean, he let those 2 things, he let all those happen. They had a good draft. Will Dissly was still really stupid, Pete. Extending Diggs was stupid. Extending Jamal was stupid. But other than that, if I agree with Matthew that Geno probably needs to be the guy this year, but if he's the guy, like you said, draft with a lot of things. You can't really fill out a roster if you're going to pay your quarterback $35 million, because that was the whole thing of like why you can't pay Russell, but you're going to pay Geno. So Seahawks fans need to pick which one is it. What do you want to do? Because everyone's flip flopping. Just pick. That's all I want, Seahawks fans. Either you pay quarterbacks or you don't. So what I would say again is, if you give Geno a deal, is it needs to be 3 years if you're going to give him, because that way it could be sub 30 a year. Because the rumor is, Matthew, it sounds like they're off on their deal and they're probably just going to franchise him for 31 million, which is double what Russell made this year. So if you franchise him, then you kind of have to address this in the draft, because you don't have another quarterback on your roster. You just don't. And people are always saying Drew Lock, but Drew Lock, I don't like we've rolled the dice enough with like, what if these guys are good? What if we roll the dice again and Drew Lock's bad and then the season's tanked? It doesn't matter if you draft Carter or Anderson. If your quarterback is Drew Lock and he plays like he did in Denver, then it's just over. Like, it doesn't matter, and you're going to win 5 games. So especially with the schedule you play next year, it's just, I guess what it comes down to, the Geno situation, we'll get that in the offseason, is what his length of deal looks like dictates what you have to do in the draft. And that we won't know that until Geno stuff gets worked out. So thinking about what we're going to do with the draft quarterback wise is kind of spinning your wheels until we understand what Geno's situation is. So we'll get there when we get there with that one. But this year, Geno played well enough to come back, probably at a reasonable deal, not a top 5 deal. I don't think anybody wants that, but when you sign a franchise tag, you're top 10 so that you're getting up there in deals. So he deserves to come back. Pete needs another run to see if what he can do. I think we all think like Matthew said, his deal's up in 2025. He can't be signing extension. That's just ridiculous at that point. You have to start kind of maybe the process of looking for the next guy. Maybe me and Kevin have criticized Pete a lot over what he's done, but I think no one can argue his locker room and vibes have been good. I've kind of want him to be removed from every decision making and just be the vibes guy. And if you could bring in a coach and get kind of what the culture is there and learn the culture, and then bring him in their own play stuff on top of that. That is my ideal. Like, bring in a guy like, I don't know, like hypothetically, don't even Kellen Moore. I just saw him coach a game. I don't know. Bring in Kellen Moore and be like, look, this is how we do our culture here. This is kind of like what works for us. And then you bring your offensive stuff in. And then in 2 years, you're the guy. Like, that's kind of what we need to start kind of bracing for, because I think that's pretty unanimous on this thing. I don't think he's going to be here in 2026, right? His deal goes through 2025, right? I think he's gone after that. So we start needing to have a contingency plan, because again, he's the boss. He's above John. So having a contingency for what happens in a couple of years, because you can't go to 2025, be done and be like, okay, everyone figured out. Like, that's how Arizona Cardinals decisions are made. And you're signing old AJ Green and JJ Watt. And you're like, what the fuck are we doing with our roster? Like, have a contingency plan in place, get it ready for this. And so I would like in this offseason, again, fun year, I'd like in the offseason to bring in some possible, or start the conversation of who's going to take over this when Pete is 75, 76 at the end of that deal.
I think he's 71 right now.
He's 71 now, and he has 3 years left.
Well, it's 2023. So,
but it's a 2023 season,
okay,
2024 season, 2025 season. Yeah, NFL season's ending. I always view it as the season when it starts, because
it's like the Madden number.
Yeah, it's the 2022, 2023 stupid hashtag. I always view it as this is the 2022 season end, and the next one's the 2023. So that's where I think in this offseason, but I think he has earned the right to fuck up another draft after this year, and Gino has earned the right to try not to play like he did the last 10 weeks of the season. And then we'll see where we go from there, because as much as I agree with you also, Kevin, this isn't, even if we bring somebody in, it's not going to fix it. So roll the dice with some picks you have, and if we suck next year, then we'll have high picks again. And then maybe, like Matthew said, we'll fire him.
Here's my question, and I put it to the 12s. I was talking with the 12 on it, because I can't remember what their dumb name was, but they're like listing, they're like, well, who you bring in, and they're like listing all like coaches that have been like fired, like Cliff Kingsbury, all that stuff. And I was like, well, they can bring in other people. Like, you don't have to list all coaches that
it's also
just got fired. Like
to Kevin's point too, though, it's also different when it's hard to judge because coaches and GMs are different. A lot of the times it's the GM's above the head coach, and the GM is deciding who they're bringing in, and the coach deals with it. Now, some of them have some say, but at the end of the day, it's the GM, or sometimes the owner. Like, the owner's just like, I want this person, you draft this person.
You're talking about Jerry Jones?
I'm talking about, there's some other people who do that too, but yeah, like, there's people who are like, I do this thing, and this thing was really stupid. The Titans guy lost his job because he traded AJ Brown. Like, he's gone. He traded AJ Brown. They're like, fuck, that sucked when we played the Eagles, and they fired him. Like, they got a bunch of shit. They heard it on the internet, and they're like, get rid of him, because that's what happened, because it was a terrible, stupid decision. And it's just, so when we talk about like other coaches and they fail, other coaches can also fail for various reasons. Like, I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury was maybe like a great head coach, but he obviously knows offense, but also what they were doing with what he was handed was just not good. Like, they were taking a shot occasionally on offensive line, but then like filling out with bad offensive linemen, and then bringing in just a terrible trade, which I called in the beginning when a couple of years ago were like, a tight end from the Eagles.
Zach Ertz.
Everyone's like, Ertz better. I'm like, Ertz kind of sucks, and they got rid of him for a reason. And everyone was like, he's going to come in and he did nothing. He's done nothing for 2 years. I was like, guys, like, you're not, like, I don't see Ertz as being that good. They're just getting old players that are a name. You're name shopping, not rather than like talent shopping with these guys. And that's what the guy in Arizona was doing. So Cliff's being handed a bunch of like AJ Green, Ertz and a suspended DeAndre Hopkins. Like, and then they signed James Conner to a big deal, which was super stupid. He ran a bunch of 1-yard touchdowns in the year before. Like, that just offense was just never going to succeed. And then obviously Kyler Murray has his own issues and he's hurt again. But like, I'm not even saying Cliff Kingsbury was a good coach, but I'm saying like situations of who you're bringing in, and people fail for different reasons in the NFL. I want to bring in someone younger, like Matthew. I don't want to be close to the 70 guy.
No,
I don't want to
absolutely
be
not.
bringing somebody like that. I want even like a Sean Payton. I don't even want to mess with like a Sean Payton. I want someone who understands, doesn't even have to be like a nerd, but like Doug Peterson of like, Doug Peterson's very analytics driven. He doesn't get it, but he's like, I want to bring people in the room just to have it as in the room. It needs to be that needs to be in the room rather than ignored. Like, there's a lot of coaches who are just like, ignore that. And Doug Peterson's like, look, I'm not going to do it what it says every time, but it has to be in the room. It is 2022. And I'm like, yes, Doug gets it. Analytics has to be in the room. Just someone who is willing to understand it. There was a line when they played the Jets that the announcers made fun of, that Pete Carroll said Robert Saleh was his analytics guy. And Robert Saleh made the joke, he goes, because I knew how to turn on a computer. He doesn't know anything about analytics. Like, that's how behind they were when Robert Saleh was in Seattle. Like, I just want someone, and like, man, you shared in our thing, they brought in people, but bring in, like, when your next coach comes in, bring in somebody who understands that too. Like, doesn't need to be crunching the numbers, but is at least willing to take input from those people.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing with most 12s too. Like, it can get to that point. Like, Jacksonville's a perfect example of it too. Like, everybody like thought, you know, after they moved on from Urban Meyer, and then they go get Doug Peterson, and now they're in the playoffs. Like, because
it's just hard to.
It is hard to do, but at the same time,
he was just a shitstorm.
We've already announced, and we've already analyzed this a couple of pods back of like, what does Pete do other than the rah-rah, which is essentially nothing. Because Shane Waldron's running the offense. Pete,
well, hold on, Kevin. Well, let me say, if you can't like give Pete all the blame and then none of the credit, that's also an issue. Like, you can't be like, oh, it's Waldron, oh, it's Clint Hurd. Like, you know, like,
no, he hired
responsibility. Can't just be all the credit, none of the blame.
I said he listened to the nerds this year. He passed first. He did all the things. He drafted pass pro guys. He did all that stuff. He leaned into the passing game. He leaned into it. You have to lean into it.
My biggest concern about moving on from Pete is we become a Cleveland, a Houston, where we are just new coach, next season, new coach, 2 seasons, new coach. Like, you know, continuity is something that helps teams. Like, Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. Bill Belichick,
he hasn't won to play a game that mattered in 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean,
Pittsburgh fans aren't happy, Matthew. They aren't happy. Like, you need to win something at some point that matters. Like,
championships matter.
No, not even
championships. Are like the ultimate goal, and one team.
I'm not saying championships. I'm not saying winning championships isn't. You need to be a team that could legitimately win one, and you don't. Only one team wins one. But there's like 9 or 8 teams every year who could legitimately win one. And if you're not one over and over and over, and you're the mediocrity, that is hell. You're the Pittsburgh Steelers are the Minnesota Vikings, and the Minnesota Vikings fired their guy. Don't be blah, because that's the worst to be, because you'll never get the pick. You'll never change your franchise's trajectory. You'll have to reach and take a quarterback that everyone's like, that's a 2nd or 3rd round guy at best. And you have to take him in the 1st, because you're never going to get a high 1st guy.
Yep.
And then you're just, or you're not or you're not good enough to actually win anything that actually matters. Being blah is the worst. Be good or be bad. Like, you have to do one or the other.
So in a scenario of, in a 10-year span, you have all winning seasons, no championships. But the other side is hold on.
Am I contender? Am I a contender to win?
That's subjective, so I don't really care about that.
No, it doesn't matter.
10 seasons. You have a winning record in all of them. You maybe win a few playoff games here and there. Then you have 10 years where you win nothing, but 1 year you win the Super Bowl. Which do you want?
Super Bowl.
I am reluctant, but I do agree with you, Sean.
No, because Matthew, like, all those 10 mean nothing to me. Like the Steelers.
All those 10 don't necessarily mean nothing.
They're nothing.
When they don't win,
Eagles. I could be the Eagles. I could be the Eagles or the Steelers, and I'd rather be the Eagles. The Eagles took that shot. They won it. They knew it was super lucky, burned the whole thing down, changed it, and took the gamble again, and they're back in being good. Pittsburgh's like, do nothing, change nothing ever. And they're never going to move. They're just never going to move.
And the funny thing is, Matthew, the outline that you want for the 49ers of what they have right now, they have that is because they sucked balls for 5 to 6 years. So they sucked. So they're at the bottom to where they could go get that.
I get Matthews.
Okay.
I get Matthews' worry because the Lions and the Browns have been bad for so long. What it comes down to is honestly what a lot of it you see with the Mariners, ownership matters for these things.
And we should be scared because Jody
your ownership. Well, it's too early for that, but ownership matters because it's their job to hire the right people.
Yes, ownership matters, but I also know I have zero control over that. The only person who has control over that
that's where it comes down to.
And people with money. So I don't even bother getting into that because I have zero control over it. In my opinion, means nothing.
You have zero control over any of it, actually. So
yeah,
you have the same control over the quarterback as you do the owner. So, but I'm just saying, that's really what comes down to. It's not because let's just be honest here. There's better coaches out there than Pete Carroll. Are there worse? Absolutely. But you're not going to get anything by not swinging. I'm not saying this isn't. I just use Pete Carroll as a hypothetical, but that's how it is. We know that. And when you move on from Pete due to just retirement, could you get better? Yeah, absolutely. You could get better. If you hire the right guy, you could get better. And that is Jody's job and probably Snyder's job if he's still here. I assume so. Depends on what he wants to do at that time. That's a whole nother, but I'm saying that's the conversation. You're saying oh, it's that. I go, but it's their job. That's the job it is of those people to find that person. Mm-hmm. It's all about ownership. The Browns have failed because of their ownership. The Lions have failed because of their ownership. Washington. Lions had a 9-7 coach Caldwell and then fired him. It's just what expectations are we doing here? The Houston Texans are bad because they constantly fire coaches after 1 year. They were propped up by Deshaun Watson. They were just a dumpster fire. You said a couple weeks ago, Deshaun Watson was propped up by Houston. That was the opposite. Deshaun Watson brought them, won a playoff game. They got rid of him and they won 2 games. They were solely Deshaun Watson. And that was it. They were just nothing else other than Deshaun Watson. It was just Houston Texans bad because their owner is shitty at their job. That's just what it is. They put the wrong people in charge all the time, gave Bill O'Brien so much power. He burned the thing to the ground. Now they're just burning through coaches. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been solid team because their ownership's been good, but that's the problem. You're running into, they're just solid now because NFL's figured out with numbers coming in that there's a matrix you got to hit. And it's just I listened to a great podcast on this. It's the worst thing is a Kirk Cousins quarterback because he's good enough to be good, but not good enough to take you anywhere. And that's the perfect medium. And it's just if your goal is to win something, Kirk Cousins isn't going to win you anything. But do you take the chance and play like a Skylar Thompson who's going to could get you the number 1 overall pick because he's so bad? And he goes, and they said it's honestly what the problem comes is with these guys is they don't want to fire the Kirk Cousins because they'll let them keep their job because they'll be 9-8 all year because Mike Tomlin, but that's never going to win them anything. And so the GM's I can't get rid of this guy because we're never going to win a Super Bowl or actually even be a contender to win a Super Bowl, but I'll keep my job. And that's the human element of it. The owners need to give the GM look, you can move on from Kirk Cousins and I still won't fire you. If you swing at a quarterback and miss, it's fine because you made the right process. But if they view it as if you swing and miss, you're fired. And the GM's I just won't swing and miss. I'll just keep Kurt and we're going to win 9 games. And that's all they do for a decade. And then they don't win a Super Bowl. And then all Minnesota and Pittsburgh fans are super pissed off and hate their lives. So that's it. I don't want to be that team. And that's what I'm scared Geno is. I don't is Geno just going to be a 9-win or 8-win quarterback? And I'm I don't know. I just don't know.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of the Seahawks end of the season, the regular season, and the postseason. Go ahead, tweet us. I am Matt. Sean is at Sean Scobrady. Kev is at SEA2Believe. That is C2Believe on Twitter. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Like our videos, dislike our videos, whatever you feel like doing. We will be back next time with possibly more Seahawks news. Maybe more Mariners news.
We'll take a break.
Well, if news comes up, we'll definitely talk about it.
If news comes up, but we'll still be the playoffs. I don't think anything will happen during.
And quickly before we get out of here, Super Bowl pick right now, me Buffalo Bills.
I don't think so. I think the first time in 10 years I won't have a team in the Super Bowl. I said that 2 days after we picked when our mom does the picks. For everybody that doesn't know, me and Matthew's mom does the picks. I said that I was like, I think this is the year my streak ends. I don't think the Bills even go to the Super Bowl.
Who do you got?
Kansas City Eagles.
Well, I just said winner. So who's your winner?
Oh yeah. Oh God, fuck. I was more confident who the two teams were going to be. Flip a coin. Kevin, pick a heads or tails. No, just pick one. Pick one.
Tails.
It's tails, but
okay,
yeah.
Eagles. I flipped a coin. There we go.
Let's see. What's the matchups next week?
Cowboys, 49ers play each other. 2 contenders.
Yeah, I know that.
Eagles, Giants, 1 is a contender. And then you got the 3 juggernauts in the AFC, and then the Jags. The Jags play Kansas City.
Jags play Kansas City. Okay.
And the Bengals are at Buffalo. I'm correct.
It's gonna depend on the Bills-Bengals game. Because honestly, if the Bengals do beat the Bills, I think the Bengals go back. Because they, for some weird juju reason, like magic shit, they have the Chiefs number. And kind of the Chiefs kind of have the Bills number a little bit. So I'm gonna go ballsy and I'm gonna say the Bengals again. God,
who do they play? Both of you. Who do they play? Who do the teams play?
Eagles.
I'll go crazy here. I think it's gonna be Eagles, but I'll go different. I'll say Cowboys.
You go crazy. Those are the 3 teams that are pulling.
Oh no, actually no. Sorry,
crazy would have been the Giants.
No.
Crazy
Niners.
for you to say the Giants.
Yeah, crazy would have been Giants.
No.
Yeah,
Jaguars, Giants. If you predict that one, like
those are the 2 teams. So Matthew, when you say contenders,
Bengals, Niners.
You just need the 2 teams who aren't contenders. Everyone else is a contender.
Bengals, Niners, and sadly, the freaking Niners take it probably.
They're good.
All right. Well, with that, we will see you next time on Washington East to West Sports.